out of poverty, of putting control of the
Yeah?
country's
If I buy it,
destiny in the hands of
do me a favor. Anything. Scatter my ashes on the field at the LA Memorial Coliseum.
You got it.
How about you?
Burn my hard drive? Just burn it. Drop it in the ocean, bury it under a rock at the bottom of the sea. Just get rid of that shit. And don't even think about looking at what's on it.
in your own hands. This is the reality of today, not some
Just spotted one with submachine guns. Got another tango. I got a third target. I got a target carrying submachine guns.
Moving to position. Let me find a good position. I've got the target. Got the target. Ready to engage. That's one less bad guy. I gotta say, I feel bad for Agent Sander. But that guy was crazy.
So there's this army ranger on leave out in my neck of the woods, and he decided he wanted to get himself a pair of alligator boots. But you know, we're talking a ranger here. He wasn't gonna go to no shoe store. No, he gets himself a knife and heads out to the bayou to get him a gator and make some boots for himself. So he gets off the highway and heads back into the country and finds a little old bait shop near the edge of the swamp. He asks the man where he can find himself a gator, and the man gives him directions into the bayou.
This doesn't end with banjo music, does it?
Just let me tell the story, okay? Anyway, the guy at the bait shop says, "Look here, while you're out there, keep an eye out for these two Marines I sent in a couple days ago. They were after gator boots too, and they should have been back by now." Ranger says, he'll keep an eye out for him, and heads into the bayou. He follows the man's directions and heads way out into the swamp. When he gets to where he's going, sure enough, he sees these two Marines standing up to their waists in the water. Over on the shore nearby, there's like 20 dead gators in the mud. Now, as the ranger watches a gator swim up to the Marines, this jarhead jumps on the gator and kills it with his knife, drags it up on the shore, flips it over, and looks at the gator's feet. He said, "Damn it! This one ain't got on no boots either." There's an Air Force colonel and a Delta operator sitting next to each other on a flight out of King Khalid.
Is this the one where the Delta operator skins the Air Force colonel and wears him like a suit?
What? No, different story.
Oh man, I love that one.
Anyway, they're both headed back home after a long deployment. The Delta guy's been out in the desert doing, Delta stuff, and he just wants to rack out for a while. But the Air Force colonel, he's on like his 8th espresso and he's feeling chatty. So the colonel says, "Hey, you want to play a game to pass the time? It's a great game, you'll love it. Here's how it works. I ask you a question. If you can't answer it, you pay me $5. Then you get to ask me a question. If I can't answer it, I pay you $500. The Delta guy sighs and thinks it over. Go ahead, he says. The colonel grins, What's the distance between Earth and Neptune, he says. The Delta operator thinks a minute. Finally, he frowns and reaches into his pocket and hands over $5. The Air Force guy, he grins. He figures he's going to take this Delta guy for all he's worth. "Your turn." The operator looks him in the eye. He says, "What goes up a hill on 4 legs but comes down again on 3? Then he lowers his head and he goes back to sleep. The colonel thinks and thinks. He gets out his smartphone and scours the internet for answers, but he can't find it. He calls up his buddies back in Saudi and asks them for help, but they can't find the answer either. Finally, the colonel admits defeat, pulls out $500, wakes up the Delta guy, and hands the money over. The operator pockets the money without a word and closes his eyes again. But the colonel just can't let it go. He wakes the Delta guy up. He says, "I gotta know. What goes up a hill on 4 legs but comes down again on 3? The Delta guy stares at the colonel for a second. Then he reaches in his pocket, hands the colonel $5, and goes back to sleep.
Okay, tell me if you've heard this one. A sailor's sitting in a bar.
I've heard this one.
I don't give a shit. Anyway, this sailor's sitting at a bar and he leans over to the guy next to him and says, "You want to hear a Marine joke?" The guy next to him replies, "Before you tell the joke, you ought to know. I'm 6 feet tall, weigh 200 pounds, and I'm a Marine. The guy next to me is 6'2", weighs 225, and is also a Marine. And the guy next to him, he's 6'5", weighs 250, and is a Marine too." Now he says, "Do you still want to tell that joke?" The sailor thinks about it for a minute, then shakes his head. "Nah," he says, "I don't want to have to explain it 3 times."